Are you responsible for my property values going down? Good afternoon. So I was reading an article the other day about homelessness in Salt Lake City, Utah, and what I found interesting about it is the person that was bringing up the problems was a real estate person, and so that obviously caught my eye. It seems like homelessness has really become a problem. Even in the county here in St. Louis, it's not good. It's not good, and doesn't seem like it's getting better. So I just wanted to take a look at this article. We'll go over it and then just kind of come up with some thoughts and questions on it and see what you think. So here's the headline. It says Salt Lake City is no Gotham City, but business coalition says crime and camping has to stop. And so John Gardner, whose family owns a Salt Lake City-based real estate business, didn't mince words about his frustration about the increasingly large lawless camps occupying Salt Lake City neighborhoods. You see drug abuse occurring, needles on the streets, excrement on the streets, drug-crazed people staggering down the street, piles of garbage all over the place, intoxicated people, and important to note, violent people who threaten public safety, he said. He said, my gosh, these camps look worse than Afghanistan, and the management of the crisis is worse than Afghanistan. What city mayor or city council in their right minds would allow lawless camps to continue to exist? The answer is the Salt Lake City mayor and the Salt Lake City council. This has to stop. It's bad for the homeless, it's bad for the neighborhood, and it's bad for everyone. And so that was pretty strong. And then it goes on to say, at his and other properties, Gardner described lawless neighborhood campers sleeping in our trash dumpsters, threatening single women residents who are just trying to take the trash out, defecating on the properties, taking baths in our hot tubs, trying to break into our parking garages and storage units, camping in the stairwell of our small office building, vandalize the building, breaking into the building. And so, oddly enough, this John Huber, I don't know if you remember him, but he was tasked with investigating something. I guess he's not doing that anymore because he's speaking at this conference and says, Huber said that Salt Lake City's elected leaders have abdicated their responsibility regarding this pervasive lawless feeling and reality in downtown Salt Lake City. That lawlessness, Huber says, runs the spectrum from the quality of life crimes like indecent exposure, public urination, and defecation on up to drug abuse, drug trafficking, and violent felonies. The source of this lawlessness centers around the chronic lawless camps that exist in and around Salt Lake City. And so then they ask the question, is Salt Lake City, is the city camping better or worse? Huber says, the public officials have long been too reluctant to enforce camping ordinances because of a court case stemming from a Boise, Idaho law, which prohibited people from camping or sleeping on sidewalks, but was struck down by the Ninth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. He said that court's case's implications have been exaggerated by public officials. This faraway decision has empowered hyper-conservative risk managers within municipalities as they advise city officials not to enforce these duly enacted laws that are on the books of Salt Lake City and other municipalities along the Wasatch Front. You can't camp on public land. You can't set up a tent in the park strip and go to the bathroom there. There is no right to do that. Then they went and talked to the mayor, I believe, and the Salt Lake City police chief. And so his quote, the police chief is, we will not let criminal activity go unchecked in our city. To those who say there is lawlessness in Salt Lake City, you are wrong. Our police officers are out there every day building relationships, responding to crime, making arrests, and they are referring those cases for prosecution. And then it gets into the question of, does Salt Lake City enforce camping ordinances? And it says, as for camping, Weisberg said, and he's the spokesperson, I believe, for the police department, said Salt Lake police officers are instructed to offer multiple opportunities for campers to leave on their own. Officers demonstrate compassion and common sense in their approach, involve the Community Connection Team, Volunteers of America, and other stakeholders whenever practical and possible, adding that these officers follow 3 steps enforcing the city's camping ordinance: issue warnings, issue citations to those who have been warned but refuse to obey the law, and then book into criminal offenders. It says, and then book into jail criminal offenders. Okay. Salt Lake City Mayor Aaron Mendenhall's spokesperson, Lindsay Nicola, also issued a statement on Tuesday saying city officials appreciate the Pioneer Park Coalition concerns, but their frustration right now would be better directed at solutions to the statewide homelessness issue, including advocacy to our state government for the funding needed to make progress. Solutions and actions to achieve them are the leadership Mayor Mendenhall has brought to public safety and homelessness in Salt Lake City. From convening the U.S. Attorney, Utah Public Safety Commissioner, and U.S. Marshal to help our city get high-impact criminals off the street, to expanding the work of downtown ambassadors, increasing pay to top of market for all first responders in our capital city, and coordinating with our police department on public safety focus areas within our city, Mayor Mendenhall is a leader who has consistently prioritized the safety of our city's residents, visitors, and business owners. It says, regarding the camping ordinance, with Nicola described as a separate but equally important issue, the mayor has laid out the responsible and humane conditions necessary for more consistent enforcement of camping laws. That includes an assurance that the system has adequate emergency shelter for currently unsheltered individuals and mitigation funding for public safety needs. Individuals experiencing homelessness need resources in order to make long-term commitment and effective change, which is why this administration organized the Community Commitment Program nearly 1 year ago, convening more than a dozen service providers to meet people where they're at on the street. Okay. And then it says, but rather than Salt Lake City taking the burden of those 300 more beds, Mendenhall called on other partners outside of Salt Lake City, including state leaders in other cities, to step up. As a member of the Utah Homeless Council, a new body tasked with coordinating and approving state funding for statewide homeless issues, Mendenhall previously voted in support of $3 million to fund new homeless shelter proposed in the Ballpark neighborhood at a facility that is currently owned by Volunteers of America, Utah, at 252 West Brooklyn Avenue. But last week, the mayor reversed course, saying that she resented her vote when she heard the state funds would possibly be used for shelter beds at a different Salt Lake City location. Tuesday, former Senate President Wayne Niederhauser, who is the state's newly appointed former Senate President Wayne Niederhauser, who's the state's newly appointed chief homeless coordinator, updated the Utah legislature's Executive Appropriations Committee on the proposal for $3 million in state funds. The decision, he said, didn't need ratification from the committee. However, for the homeless shelter in the Ballpark to proceed, the proposal would still need land use approval from city officials, which would require a public process. So I thought that was interesting. I wanted to kind of go over some of the thoughts I had and questions. And number one is, what is the thought process that allows homeless on the streets and on corners? This isn't something that was widely accepted when I was growing up, but it seems to be everywhere now. How is it okay for anyone to be living and begging on the streets? It's not safe for anyone. How is it not doing anything about the problem, not causing additional ones? And what should be done about this issue? Lately, I've seen new coordinator positions for the homeless. These people get paid many thousands of dollars to dole out funds for the homeless. Does this actually help the homeless? A liaison? What is the motivation to solve this issue when it becomes an entrenched part of government to support employment positions? It appears to be a way to get more money into the pockets of the politically well-connected. What are we to expect of our local government? Is the safety of the citizenry on the top of this list? It can't possibly be with homelessness camps. And what are these common sense approaches the spokesperson was talking about? In my mind, I see a homeless person being asked to leave, and if they do not do so, ticketed. Now, are they going to be able to pay the ticket? No, they don't even have an address. But you're trying to apply logic to an illogical situation, and it just doesn't work. It's not common sense to know what to do with the homeless. If it were, it would already be done. From my time in Detroit, I sort of realized that we live in a pretty lawless society, that your real quality of life is very much affected by the people in your community. Laws appear to be a terribly ineffective deterrent to crime. It would appear that people either choose to commit crimes or not, but it has nothing to do with the law. That's why I don't see a reason to strengthen the laws already on the books. It would seem the political class doesn't have the fortitude to enforce the laws we have now. Does the government have a responsibility to protect property values? It would seem so. The government seems to be able to happily dole out huge sums of cash for infrastructure, roads, bridges, etc. All of these things could help property values. It would also seem that higher property values would raise the taxable base. more money for politicians to dole out to their favorite status groups. So why has this particular homeless situation been allowed to occur? Is there more money earmarked for homeless? Is there more money earmarked for homeless higher than what politicians could receive if they just took care of the infrastructure and property values rose naturally? The discourse in the chat is enlightening. It runs the gamut. So I was looking at the comments at the bottom of the article, and one is offense. Someone that has actually been to Afghanistan and says it's not as bad as Salt Lake City. Two, finger wagging, and they say, like, what would Jesus do? Three, blame the Democrats. So there's a lot of that on there. And four, spend more money or spend less money. None of it solves the problem. What is the problem even? It goes from there are too many homeless allowed to camp in front of businesses and that causes lifestyle issues to we should spend more to help the homeless. Is it possible that we just fix the public vagrancy issue first and then move to the homeless issue? Or if you want to fix the homeless issue first and then fix the camping out of the homeless, that's totally fine. Could we do both at the same time? I don't see why this has to be as big of an issue politically as it is, especially if you actually care about the homeless. These people need help. One of the quotes is from the police department is, "We will not let criminal activity go unchecked in our city. To those who say there's lawlessness in Salt Lake City, you are wrong. And this statement is a matter of opinion. If there are people sleeping in tents, using drugs, and making the park for their own toilet, I'm pretty sure that that's against the law, and I'm pretty sure that it's absolutely lawlessness." And another quote, "But their frustration right now would be better directed at solutions to the statewide homelessness issue, including advocacy to our state government for the funding needed to make progress." I don't think that's really it. The issue the citizens are having is with the people using the bathroom and drugs on the sidewalks within the city. It's not a statewide or even a national problem. As a local citizen, your concerns are local. Leave the state out of it and fix your section of real estate. Another quote, "Solutions and actions to achieve them are the leadership Mayor Mendenhall has brought to public safety and homelessness in Salt Lake City. From convening the U.S. Attorney, Utah Public Safety Commissioner, and U.S. Marshal to help our city get high-impact criminals off the street, to expanding the work of downtown ambassadors, increasing pay to top of the market for all first responders in the capital city, and coordinating with our police department on public safety focus areas within our city, Mayor Mendenhall is a leader who has consistently prioritized the safety of our city's residents, visitors, and business owners." None of this has to do with the homeless person camping on the street. Seriously, convening a meeting doesn't do anything. Classifying homeless as low-impact criminals so you don't have to discuss in the statement doesn't do anything. Increasing the pay of first responders who are already not doing anything about the problem of homelessness isn't doing anything. And coordinating with the police department on public safety when not getting rid of the homeless campers in front of residences is also not doing anything for the actual homeless person on the street. They're being used as political prisoners, and it's really sick. Another quote, "Individuals experiencing homelessness need access to resources in order to make the long-term and effective change, which is why this administration organized the Community Commitment Program nearly 1 year ago, convening more than a dozen service providers to meet people where they're at on the street." Does anyone really think that the chronic homeless are going to all of a sudden stop being homeless because you called a meeting of service providers? And maybe, just maybe, those citizens being affected by the homeless don't particularly need long-term effective change from the homeless as much as they need to be able to feel safe walking the streets of their city without fear of stepping in human excrement. The bottom line is, yes, homelessness is a problem. And I believe that that municipalities have a responsibility to protect their citizens and their property values first. And then they also have a responsibility to try and help those less fortunate. But it should never be to the detriment of those citizens currently living in their community responsibly. So that's the issue I kind of have with this is like, look, these people are living here and minding their own business, and then you have the homeless camps. They're not exactly minding their own business when there's, excrement on the streets, open drug use, these types of things. It just makes for a bad situation. And I'm seeing it in St. Louis County. Every block, every time you get off the highway, anywhere there's enough cars, you'll see all kinds of homeless beggars, and it's gotten out of hand. And I don't know what can be done about it. I mean, I see that it's a very difficult problem, but to just allow people to sit on the street and beg, it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense, and it seems dangerous, and I don't want that for anyone. So, Does the government have a responsibility to, protect home values in an area? I guess not, based on what they're doing now. So anyway, that's what I have for you today. I'm sure it's a contentious issue. Put a comment in the comment section below. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I hope we can stay away from the typical it's the Democrats' fault or the Republicans' fault, because that's not going to get us anywhere. And maybe you're okay with homeless people all over the place. I mean, maybe that's fine to you. I'm blown away by it, and I just feel like in a country that has such wealth as the United States, this all of a sudden not being able to take care of the homeless problem and having it affect the citizenry is either evil or just a lack of the ability to operate governments properly. With that being said, I'm going to head out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you on the next one.